Yo, what's going on, Faith family? And welcome back to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe or hit like and do all those newfangled kids things that brings exposure not only to the YouTube channel for God, but exposes people to our wonderful church, Faith Family, in Burnsville and Rosemount, Minnesota, faithfamilymn.org. This is the Preacher Feature, and of course it features Pastor Wes. The word guilt is a big, heavy word. Let's address that with the Preacher Feature.
His name was Albert Speer. Had he lived at a different time and place, he would have been recognized as one of the world's industrial giants. Instead, he'll forever be known as one of the close associates of Adolf Hitler. You see, it was actually Speer's technological genius that engineered the German factories of World War II. Of the 24 criminals that were tried at Nuremberg, Speer was the only one that actually admitted his guilt. And he spent the next 20 years in prison. Upon his release, ABC's Good Morning America did an interview with him upon the release of a new book. The reporter asked Speer this, quote, "You mention in your book that you don't believe your past can ever be forgiven. Do you still feel that way?" Speer replied, "I served 20 years in prison. I am now a free man. I wish I could say, after serving my time, I have a clear conscience. But I can't. I still carry the burden of what happened to millions of people. I can't get rid of it. This book is part of my atonement, a way of trying to clear my conscience." The reporter then followed up with this question, "But you don't think you'll ever be clear of it completely?" And Speer said, "No, I don't think that's possible." Think about that. Here's a man that accepted responsibility for 35 years, served 20 years in prison. His writings were full of remorse. He repeatedly warned others not to follow in his path and to avoid his failures. And yet, for all of his efforts, he couldn't shake the haunting cry of a guilty conscience. It's like in the Edgar Allan Poe story, the Telltale Heart, where a man commits a crime and he goes home and goes to sleep. And as he lays there in bed, he can't get the sound of his victim's heartbeat off his mind. That guilty conscience could never be cleared. You know, guilt in our life is kind of like the neighborhood dog that won't stop barking. No matter what you do, it's always there. You know, that dishonest business deal that you were a part of, that secret addiction no one knows about, not being the spouse that you feel like you should be, that thing you wish you'd never said, that thing you wish you'd never done, the thing you did in college, maybe the thing you did last night. Every single one of us has a past we wish we could erase, a guilt that we wish we could get that dog to stop barking. You know, some of the greatest heroes in the Bible were men and women with a guilty past, things that they wished that they could go back and do over. The Apostle Paul was one of them, a blasphemer of God, a persecutor of the church, and by his own admission, he said, "I am the chief of sinners." But that same man with that guilty past wrote these words in Colossians chapter 2. He says, "And you who were dead in your trespasses and the uncircumcision of your flesh, God made alive together with him, having forgiven us of all our trespasses by canceling the record of debt that stood against us. This he set aside, nailing it to the cross." Whatever your records of wrong may be, whatever is in your past that continues to haunt you, the good news of the gospel is it has been canceled by the cross. Others may not forgive you, but God has forgiven you. He has washed it as white as snow. And if you are ever going to live in the freedom of the gospel, you must rest in the fact that your sins have been forgiven at the cross, because the good news of the gospel will make the guilty conscience stop barking.